Greetings. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here, live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. Steve Deace here alongside Todd Erzin and Aaron McIntyre. We are brought to you by the Center for Academic Faithfulness and Flourishing, but you might know them over at ChristianCollegeGuide.com. Listen, college can be a major investment, so you want to make sure you do your research. Find a school that shares your values, but who has time to dig through all those various college websites out there? Well, today we found the people that do. We've got great news for you. There's a free, easy-to-use resource that does the work for you. It's called the ChristianCollegeGuide.com. This online directory of over 250 Christian colleges and universities. It's a one-stop shop. ChristianCollegeGuide.com lists all the basics, such as acceptance rates, tuition cost, academic majors. But here's what makes the resource truly special. ChristianCollegeGuide.com will show you the school's faith commitments, its campus policies, its spiritual life, all the info that will help you find a college you can trust, because yes, there are schools that claim to be Christian and will put your kids through communist struggle sessions nevertheless. Make sure you don't go to those schools. Don't pay for those. Folks, this is how you don't do that. Get the definitive guide to Christian higher education, and it's completely free. So if you or someone you know is considering a college, go to ChristianCollegeGuide.com, create a free user profile. Get started today at ChristianCollegeGuide.com. All right, coming up on today's show, it is just, these are just some strange times. This morning, I did InfoWars for the second time this year. Did you have that on your 2025 Steve Deace Show bingo card?
I did not, but I'm quite frankly not surprised much anymore.
We're just, we're breaking seals everywhere.
Yeah.
Now, part of that conversation, I'm going to share this with you guys today in the overtime at blazetv.com/Deace, blazetv.com/Deace. Later today, some of the conversation that Brianna Morello and I had on InfoWars this morning, we're going to discuss it in the overtime today for our subscribers. This is something else. When I got into this, I thought, these are words that are never going to come out of my mouth, all right? But at the bottom of this hour, the latest from Angel Studios. Now, I've said those words many times.
Yes.
But not the words that are going to follow that. The latest from Angel Studios, an outstanding documentary on RFK Jr. that was directed by Oliver Stone's son. And Sean's going to join us here at the bottom of the hour to talk about that documentary. These are just...
God is funny.
It is. These are just times of realignment. And by the way, I've seen the documentary. It is fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. So we will have that conversation. Next hour, we've got a round of fake news or not. And I'm going to give you a tease here. I think I have come up with an angle for Todd to accept way too early Christmas recognition. I sincerely. No tongue in cheek, sincerely. All right. And what got me thinking about this is we had to make a run over to Lowe's over the weekend and as a family, and we thought, let's go see all the decorations. And it was October 12th, Sunday. They were already putting the Halloween decorations away. There were still some, and putting all the Christmas stuff out.
Do they have the abominable snowman?
They did. Yeah, all the Rudolph stuff, Yukon Cornelius. It was pretty cool. But even Ann and I looked at each other and were like, doesn't it feel like it's too early?
Because it's too early.
And I said, that's what I said. But then I got to thinking about something. Now, this isn't the only thing in fake news or not. We're going to have far more serious topics. Although I would argue the reason why I'm going to lobby and see if I can convince you to reconsider your position, which you've already kind of reconsidered. You and I have settled on November 15th as a good compromise date, right?
I got you to move 15 days. That's a victory.
I would look at it as I got you to move 15 days. So... That's why it's a good compromise. Everybody's happy. All right, now we just rebuild Gaza and we're good. We're good here, right?
Now we just rebuild Gaza.
Okay. But there's a serious angle as to why I actually think we should consider moving the Christmas stuff up. I'm dead serious. No tongue in cheek at all. We'll talk about it next hour and some other things, including a devastating political ad from Winsome Sears in the Virginia governor's race. That and more coming your way on Fake News or Not. And then for Pop Culture Tuesday, I want to give a review for Epic Universe at Universal because the bar has been raised moving forward. about what is going to be expected at American attractions and amusement parks. Boy, howdy. Wow. We'll talk about that and more, but first, here's Aaron's rundown of what happened while we were away.
What happened while we were away, brought to you by From Israel to Egypt. While we were on the air yesterday, President Trump flew from Israel to Egypt, where he met with oodles of world leaders. Check out the optics here of Trump shaking the hands of all these world leaders commemorating the end of the Israel-Hamas conflict and to sign the peace agreement. Trump spoke about the lasting peace he envisions for the region.
Today, for the first time anyone can remember, we have a once-in-a-lifetime chance to put the old feuds and bitter hatreds behind us. And that's why so many people in this room, they didn't get along. Some did, some didn't, but they're getting along now. This has brought the people together. This is the first time the Middle East crisis has brought people together as opposed to driving them apart. And to declare that our future will not be ruled by the fights of the generations past, which is foolish. So together, let us continue in the spirit of cooperation and goodwill that has finally brought us to this incredible, historic breakthrough. If we do, together, we will reach the Middle East's incredible destiny, a safe and prosperous and beautiful crossroads of culture and commerce.
Aboard Air Force One on his way back, Trump discussed with reporters what it was like working with all these global leaders.
I get along with the tough ones. I don't get along with the weak ones. I get along with the tough ones. I don't know what that is, but Erdogan's been great with me. You know, when NATO has a problem with Erdogan, which they often do, they call me to talk to him. And I've never failed in working it out like immediately.
Back at home, Trump is expected to award the Presidential Medal of Freedom posthumously to Charlie Kirk today at the White House. Kirk's widow, Erica, is expected to be in attendance. According to the political betting platform Kalshi, the government shutdown is expected to last upwards of 35 days and climbing. Senate Majority Leader John Thune says, quote, "Today we celebrate Native American Day. I'm proud to join South Dakotans in honoring the heritage and contributions of the Lakota, Dakota, and Nakota people." Okay, then. In other news of interest, former President Barack Obama is really hopping mad. Trump has undone much of his presidency.
One of the problems with the American political system is we don't have a parliamentary system. So basically the president, in my case, Democrat, I leave office and there's no obvious person who's now the shadow prime minister. A lot of what I represented, a lot of what Michelle and I had tried to project, the values, our thinking about America, my successor seemed to represent the opposite.
Right.
Not seemed, did. We have blown through, just in the last 6 months, a whole range of not simply assumptions, but rules and laws and practices that were put in place to ensure that nobody's above the law.
Learning Chinese today. Today's phrase is things people say when they realize they're no longer above the law.
当人们意识到自己不再凌驾于法律之上时，他们就会说这样的话。
New York Attorney General Letitia James has now been formally indicted on mortgage fraud. She made her first public appearance since the indictment this morning.
I stand on solid rock. And I will not bow. I will not break. I will not bend.
Back to Cincinnati, where Police Chief Teresa Theach, remember her, responded to 2 shootings in downtown over the weekend.
And so my message to everybody, learn how to behave in our city, but especially learn how to behave in our downtown.
And finally, back to Egypt, where President Trump absolutely mogged UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer.
United Kingdom, where's United Kingdom? Where's our friend? Where? Come here. Is everything going good?
Very good.
That's very nice that you're here. These people all came in like 20-minute notice.
Now, for those of you listening, President Trump called on UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer. Starmer approached the podium expecting to say a few words, and then Trump sent him back to stand in line. And that's what happened while we were away.
Aaron's montage brought to you by our friends at Moxie Pet Services. They are celebrating their silver anniversary, 25 years in business, because they know the key to being a good pest control service is to not be the pest. All right, make sure you're not the pest. So they check in with their technicians every day to make sure they've got the latest cutting edge treatments and technologies to make your home pest free, but that they're also practicing that lost art of customer service. So they're not the pest, which means if you give them the garage code, they actually close it on their way out. So it's just not open all day long while you're at work. Or you don't come home to a bunch of footprints because they didn't cover their shoes, stuff like that. Those little things make a big difference when it comes to finding the right pest control service for you. And it's why so many people have decided Moxie is the right service for them. They've been around now for 25 years. If you want to help them celebrate 25 years in business, get your first pest control service for just $25 by visiting moxieservices.com/Steve. MOXIE, moxieservices.com/Steve. Use the promo code Steve at moxieservices.com/Steve, promo code Steve. All right, two things I want to make sure we address from Aaron's scintillating montage. Let's start with Barack Obama, if we could, for just a minute, because I think that'll be the shorter conversation. Not necessarily in the ways he meant it, but Barack Obama is correct. What he's saying there, articulating as a framework, is that these are irredeemable worldviews. And the truth of the matter is, although he would have done it not looking nearly as weak, I mean, is it just me? Is Barack Obama, in terms of just like stature, even presence, just shrinking? Can he articulate a sentence without 47 ums? But then again, if your wife went out and told 7 billion people on the planet that she's glad she never had your son because she didn't want any more of you, you'd be suffering shrinkage too, brother, if you know what I'm saying. Yeah. You're probably picking up when I'm laying down, Todd.
A bit.
Yeah. You'd be suffering a lot of shrinkage yourself. But what did Joe Biden do about, what did Joe Biden's auto pen do about 1 hour after taking the oath of office in January of 2021? What did he do? Rescind every last Donald Trump executive order he could. Every last Trump administration decision that he could, right?
Yes.
This is the thing. This is the stuff of cold civil war. This is where we are. It was not intended to be like this. We were not intended to have singular elections, maybe pivotal elections every now and then, like if you're trying to undo the Jim Crow South, for example. But every single election was not meant to determine whether or not someone's version of God-given rights was going to be acknowledged or even practiced or not. That's where we are now. Fundamentally, this is where we are. We have come to a juncture where we cannot share a country with this. And they decided that first with the way, under Obama, they practiced zero-sum politics for 8 years. And you couldn't possibly have a reason to be opposed to them other than you're just, amongst the dregs of society, a racist perhaps, maybe a Nazi even. So here we are. So he is correct. Not necessarily in the way he meant it, but he's also largely and singularly responsible for the very dynamic that he's articulating. He took the Democratic Party from a pro-immigrant, pro-labor, left-of-center party, and he turned it in to the party of Saul Alinsky. He remade it in his image. He made it a Marxist party. And anytime Marxism gains any critical mass, a foothold in a culture, your politics will become a zero-sum game as a result. Because you cannot inhabit the earth with Marxism. Like not even like a single, plotted ground of the earth itself. You can't. It's a demonic, satanic system. That's why its methods of imposition and acquisition are also demonic and satanic. It's a complete and total satanic counterfeit to a biblical worldview. Any thoughts on that, gentlemen, before we get to topic number 2?
Yeah, and just his lamentation about doing a 180 on something when he's the guy that said marriage was one thing to get elected and then a totally different thing. I mean, the redefining of reality that he was so comfortable with is what you're talking about in terms of the choice before us in a cold civil war. It's a version of reality itself, the real thing and the demonic thing. Mm-hmm. And he's shown like he can Thanos switch the demonic inside himself like that, as casual as he is sitting there wherever he was on his little podcast, just chilling. But still, he's the OG Dark Lord.
Yeah, he doesn't have the crowds or the youth that he once had, and so he no longer has the hope or change to sell that he once had. And so when he's stripped of those things, when he's stripped of that veneer, all that's coming out is, let's just call it a bitter clinging to
Well played.
what he once had and no longer has.
Well played.
Because at the end of the day, Barack Obama, he may use flowery words, but what he's communicating there about the values that Michelle and I tried to project, what we thought of this country, what we thought of America. He's kind of said that under his breath. Did you note that? What he's saying there is that he is the anti-American. That's his brand.
Mm-hmm.
He is the anti-American. And what he's saying there is that President Trump espoused the opposite, which is what? Anti-American? Pro-American. Say whatever you want about Trump's ideology, his worldview, whether or not he has one, this or that. He loves America, and Barack Obama doesn't. And I think that's just perfectly illustrated in that clip there.
I almost think we should shut the show down after your bitter clinger reference there. I don't know we can do better rhetorical flourish. I mean, we're only 16 minutes in here. The bar is so high. I'm confident I will not be able to exceed it here in the next hour and 44 minutes.
That was mic drop.
That was.
Sure.
That was.
But not Michelle drop. That's just microphone drop.
Yeah, I mean, Michelle dropped a few other things of Barack's. All right, so let's talk about worldview, Aaron, because worldview is destiny. And just as we are in the midst of a worldview steel cage match, as I've often pointed out here in our country, we're now approaching a worldview inflection point within the Arab world. And I am specifically using the term Arab instead of Muslim. I'm using this term on purpose. Because while the Israelis went to war against one manifestation of the Muslim world over the last 2 years, to the point of decimating Gaza and nearly chloroforming the place, other elements of the Muslim world stood by and did nothing and lobbied nary an objection. And in fact, I would argue we may have debated this internally. The Israeli response to October 7th may have been debated more internally among the American right than it was even over in the Middle East. We didn't weekly, monthly see Arab leaders running to Al Jazeera TV or CNN, but I repeat myself, demanding the Israelis cease operations. Did we hear, how often did we hear grand complaints from al-Sisi in Egypt? How many of those did you hear? King Abdullah in Jordan? I mean, almost none. It was more debated over here. That's why on purpose I'm using the term Arab. Because it is very clear, a tree by its fruit is a universal standard. It may come from the Bible, but since we're all made in the likeness and image of God, it's a universal standard. It's very clear from the fruit that much of the Arab world was tired of the so-called Palestinian question itself. Amen?
I think that's a reasonable conclusion.
Was very, very sick and tired of having the events of Mecca, Riyadh, the United Arab Emirates, Dubai, Jordan, Egypt, completely have to stop on a dime because of the actions of Hamas and Iran as aggressive postures toward Israel. I think we can safely say that we've learned that's true to some extent.
Yeah. And you don't have to be Pollyannish about it. You can simply say that, have a more cynical take that earlier on we were leveraging this thing and thought we could get something out of it. It's how many decades are we into this thing? Right. Return on investment, not what we thought, kind of time to move on. I mean, they might be not a great Holy Spirit-filled benevolence, but it is something.
For years since 9/11, there, and this hasn't been talked about in years, but especially in the years immediately after 9/11, there was a lot of talk about Islam needs reformation. If you know anything about Islam, there will never be any such thing. It doesn't permit that level of critical thinking within itself. Can't happen. Cannot happen. Which is why it's largely been an oppressive force in this world since it first appeared on the world stage. And the people that have been most oppressed by it are actually Muslims. When a Muslim apologist talks to you about how, well, there's never really been a stable Islamic civilization and they blame it on colonizers, understand they're right. They're just lying to you about who the colonizers were. Islam. The Islam colonized Islam. You had a series of independent Islamic states. The Ottoman Empire colonized them all. They colonized themselves. Okay? They colonized themselves. Guys, that's what happened. So now I think we're going to find out how much of the Arab world is Islamic and how much of it is Arabic. That's what we're going to learn. And I don't think there can be reformation in Islam, but I absolutely believe in the total depravity of man. And I think the total depravity of man exists in Riyadh and Cairo like it exists here in our country and whatever's left of Christendom. And whether what we saw yesterday, and I agree with Secretary of State Rubio, this is the greatest world peace moment in 50 years. Agree. Now here's the key though. Is it a moment or will it become a paradigm shift? And if you go back and look at some of the things that Trump said yesterday, both in Cairo and in Jerusalem, he is now saying to the Arab world, and again, I'm using the word Arab on purpose, not Muslim. He is saying to the Arab world now, the ball is in your court now. You guys permitted Israel to handle its business. I am forbidding Israel from populating the West Bank. But something has to inhabit this region. It's not going to go uninhabited. Somebody's going to live here. Some belief system's going to exist here. Something has to inhabit this valuable piece of real estate, right? And Trump is saying in no uncertain terms, you guys are going to decide who that is. This is your last chance. Can you build some kind of Istanbul, Dubai, West Bank Riviera? Can you build something like that? Or here in Gaza, if you can do that. If that's possible. Now, the Islamic worldview, I'm telling you, that is not possible. The Islamic worldview will not permit that. The Arab worldview might. What's the difference? What do we talk a lot about over here with our politicians? People who talk a good game about their faith, don't really mean it. In the end, crave an opportunism, right? The uniparty, the unibrow, all the various things and pejoratives we have and vernacular we use that, we talk about a lot of people that use God and the Bible for their own cynical means of getting elected. But then when you look at the fruit on the tree, it's just not there, right? I mean, how many times have I done that show since before you were even working here, right? Todd and Aaron, you guys have heard that show a time or two,
That's
right?
one of the fundamental themes all
Exactly.
of your show.
Exactamundo. Well, now we're going to find out and pray that we find out there are a long cachet of the equivalent of rhino politicians in the Arab world. Because that's what we're counting on right now. Right? What we're counting on is that in fact, you want this to be true. Well, these Arab countries only let Israel do this because they wanted to take it over. Hope that you're right. Like, it would have been better if we invaded Iraq for oil. The whole thing would have gone much better. Would have gone way better. Thing would have been way more efficient. We would have sent over Dick Cheney's Halliburton refineries to pump that crude out of the ground. We'd have bought off all the Iraqi people and politicians with their own money. We'd have $40, $50 a barrel crude on the open market for us and our coalition partners for decades and generations to come. A stabilized economy. It would have been better, way better, if it was for oil. And it was for cynical reasons that admit the realities of the human condition and not for the pieties and idealistic pieties of progressivism. And it turns out that that's exactly what Bush thought he was going to do, that he was going to be the liberator of the Middle East. No, he's not. Now we're going to find out. And let's pray it's so. That there's an awful lot of craven opportunists running countries in the Arab world that are totally fine with the Israelis doing all their dirty work for them. Totally fine with the Israelis just purging these elements out of their own subcultures. And scaring them to death to the point they can't even run to Qatar or Qatar, whatever we're calling it this week. Because after the Israelis get done doing the dirty work that they don't want to be seen having done themselves, so they don't look like they have, turned on their own kind, they can wash their hands of it like Pontius Pilate. That they're now going to swoop in and cynically say, well, something's got to be done here, right? And the Israelis have shown their resolve. If another terrorist cell emerges out of this region, we'll just have endless war. So I guess the Riviera on Gaza and the West Bank it is. I guess that's what we have. And it's just an oasis. It looks very Muslim. The women are still wearing head coverings, but lots of different people and persuasions can go there, vacation. They're like Dubai. In fact, one of the coolest, I'm going to talk about Epic Universe later. But if you want to see another very cool amusement park, go online and look up the Warner Brothers amusement park in Dubai. Holy crap. That thing is state of the art, the rides and stuff they have there. We don't have a Warner Brothers amusement park like that here in America, but they have one in Dubai. That's what we're counting on. What we're counting on is a lot of people who talk a good game and end it with Assalamu alaikum. But in the end, don't want to wait to the afterlife to get their virgins. You know what I'm saying? The next 50 years of human existence may be counting on this. Because a bluff has been called, and we talked about this yesterday. Trump called the bluff, and he was right. But now whether this will be a generational reset is not going to be determined by the Islamic world, but by the Arab world. Is there a culture of people who claim to follow Islam and have very Arabic culture and names, but in the end, as long as we don't try to Americanize it and put it in English and make them look and live like us, have some of the same basic craven instincts and desires that we do. The things that are hurting our society would actually help theirs. So let's hope that that's the case. If it is, Pax Romana it is. If it's not, you're going to feel like you're listening to Carl Lewis sing the national anthem. Uh-oh. Gentlemen, your thoughts?
I guess external to that, I'm very curious what Iran has learned from getting its comeuppance there in terms of its nuclear power. But if
I were the Iranian leaders, I'd ask myself, how much longer would you like to live? I might be asking myself that.
Well, as the mullah's age, as its own experiment is fraught with some degree of peril. Does it have some once more into the breach in it?
Let's hit the crazy train button one more time on the way out. That's a possibility too. You're right about that.
Yes,
I agree.
I think so. I said yesterday that this was the beginning or the end of the beginning of a new foreign policy, at the very least for the Middle East, as it pertains to the West, as it pertains to America, in that we are not going to be dogmatic. We are not going to be ideologically or just son of a gun driven by your borders have to look exactly like this. Your government has to be set up with people who look or sound just like this, this, and this. Don't get in our way, but outside of that, you can do what you want. I think that cuts both ways as well. Because if you're the Qataris or the Iranians, that same thing is also true for you as well. And you just learned that in the most, let's just call it embarrassing way over the past 6 months or so. So I think for now, their lesson has been learned that the world they want it to look like cannot exist as they want it to right now.
Amen. All right, back here on the Steve Deace Show, and we are powered by our friends over at Patriot Mobile. They are leaders in the parallel economy space, really pioneers when it comes specifically to the mobile phone industry. And others are getting into this space now, and that's great. But don't forget about the OG that's been doing this for more than 12 years. Because the truth is there's only been one provider all this time that has boldly stood in the gap for Americans like us who believe freedom is worth fighting for, and that's Patriot Mobile. Not only are they leading the red economy, they're also outpacing the competition in technology. They're one of the only carriers offering premium access to all 3 major U.S. networks. That gives you nationwide coverage and service that you can count on. They also offer unlimited data plans, mobile hotspots, international roaming, internet backup, and more. Switching is easier than ever before. They have buyout programs to get you out of a terrible contract with the communist company who hates you. You can activate in minutes from your home or office. You can keep your number, keep your phone, or upgrade. Take a stand today. Go to patriotmobile.com/Steve and get started with the promo code Steve for a free month of service right off the top. Can't beat that. A free month of service at patriotmobile.com/Steve using the promo code Steve. Again, a free month of service using the offer code Steve at patriotmobile.com/Steve. All right, just got where we're going to have to attempt to reschedule with Sean Stone. If we don't, again, I watched the documentary. It's called The Truth About RFK Jr. It's very, very well done. I would highly recommend it over at Angel Studios. So then I want to actually then continue on the point that I was just making. I don't believe Islam permits distinctions as a worldview between, say, peaceful Muslims and Islamic dominion. And I think that, frankly, when we try to draw those distinctions, as we've been trying to since 9/11, we are projecting Western biases. Now, what do I mean by Western? I mean Christian. There is no worldview on this planet that says to love your neighbor as you love yourself other than the biblical worldview. It doesn't exist anywhere else. It does not exist anywhere else. At least not to the point that it is a foremost command of the belief system itself. There might be a golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, but it's not the same thing as to love your neighbor as you love yourself. Now, hey, it can be helpful. That level of do-gooderism can make a society better. Sure, just in a human form. But the idea of loving your neighbor, regardless of who they are, regardless of what they think, regardless of their differences, that you would esteem them as high as you do yourself, exists in only one framework, the biblical worldview. And without the spirit of the only living God, it is simply not possible for human beings to do this. Folks, for those of us that have been believers for a few minutes, how hard is it to consistently try to love your neighbor, let alone to do it without walking with the Lord at that level? So we have to be careful that we do not project nuances that only a biblical worldview provides and empowers. We cannot project that onto unbiblical belief systems. And when we do, there are catastrophic consequences. For example, every Muslim is called to jihad, folks. It does not mean holy war. It means inner or internal struggle is what jihad means. Every Muslim is called to jihad. Now, it is true that not every Muslim believes to do so violently, but what's the struggle? What's the inner struggle of the Muslim? To spread the dominion of Islam. Every Muslim is called to this. Jihad is their variation of the Great Commission. Just like we cannot have Christians who are like, but I don't really ever share my faith, then maybe you should consider if you are an actual Christian. Because the Great Commission your Savior gave you was to share your faith. So, kind of important. And why do you call me Lord if you do not do what I say? The Islamic demonic, I would say, a counterfeit of that is jihad. And that every Muslim is to endure their own internal inner struggle. Oh, wait, was there another famous work? Also kind of hated Jews. Like internal, my struggle. Any of this ring a bell? No? Nothing? I got nothing. Never mind. Aside, I digress. My bad. Doesn't ring a bell. Off the rails there. Anywho. Every Muslim has a responsibility. This is their great commission to spread the dominion of Islam. You can't opt out of that. Arabs can, though. So you bet if you see yourself primarily as an Arab and a defender of Arab traditions and Arab culture, and not primarily as a Muslim, you can draw all kinds of distinctions then. Now, one man's distinctions are another person's sellouts. Right? The so-called progressive Christians, our friend and colleague Ali Stuckey was debating on Jubilee this week. They would claim they're also drawing distinctions. But we would say, you aren't empowered to draw said distinctions. It's called Christianity, and the root word of Christianity would be Christ, which means he gets to determine the distinctions, not you. If you'd like to determine the distinctions, feel free. Get yourself up on that cross, take it to the end, and then walk out of the tomb like it never ended. And then you get to draw some distinctions. Fair? I think that's a fair trade, right? Only fair. You duplicate what he did, and you know what? We will tune in and listen to your distinctions. But short of that, you don't have distinctions. You just have heresies. That's all they are. They're not distinctions, they're heresies. I think I'm ready for the University of South Carolina on Thursday night. I think that'll go over well. Maybe I'll just drop that very first question there. I think that'll be good, right?
I'm getting a plucky sense about it.
Oh, gosh. Anywho, Islam, there are no distinctions to draw in Islam, except one. Infidel and believer. Muslim or kufr. That is literally the only distinction. You are under no obligation to love your neighbor as you love yourself. You're under every obligation to include your neighbor in the spread of the dominion of Islam. This is why, by the way, a Muslim would probably be safer and more profitable living in a Christian community than he ever would in a Muslim community. Because a free Christian community still believes it has to love its neighbor as it loves itself. A Muslim community has no obligation. Not even a suggestion. So what we're going to find out, folks, and it's going to happen in the not too distant future. We're not going to sit here 5 or 6 years from now and say, hey, the jury's still out on this one. We're going to find out quickly, like in the next year or two, how many of these countries maybe we'll use the term culturally Islamic. How about that? Like Richard Dawkins said last year, he wanted to return, the great atheist wanted to return to cultural Christianity. I don't want any of that salvation and grace stuff. Of course not. But, if we could at least get some of the cultural things all that salvation and grace stuff produces, I'm in, right? What we're hoping for, in the previous era, we believed they wanted to be free. We learned a very costly lesson that was not the case. They did not want a sacred democracy brought to the Middle East. We learned that one, right? Trillions of dollars later and how many thousands of lives. They didn't want that. We at least have some proof of concept in places like Dubai and Istanbul that at least as far as they culturally would define it, they want some aspects of modernity. Fair? As they culturally would define it.
Yes.
That's the key thing here now. As they culturally would define it. All of us are sick and tired of people coming over here and imposing their culture on us, right? Right. We get to have our own culture. We get to have our own country. Thank you very much. So do they then, right? Mm-hmm. So, and as long as their definitions We might find some of them backwards, like if your woman can't drive, when you take your wife to Saudi Arabia, or if she has to wear a headdress, like our friend Bob Vanderplatz and his, took a group of people on the Walk with Paul tour recently, and they flew to Istanbul first to go to visit the churches of Asia Minor, and the women had to wear had to wear coverings over their head. So we might find some of those things. Those things might be backwards, they might be wrong, but they're not an intrinsic violation of anybody's God-given right in any way, shape, or form, right? Mm-hmm. Not necessarily. They might be over the top, they might be incorrect, they might be prudish, they might be Victorian, they might be patriarchal, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But fundamentally, was any woman's rights fundamentally violated because she could not drive a car in Saudi Arabia?
No.
No. Or had to wear a hair covering in Istanbul or Dubai?
No.
No. Again, might be backwards, might be wrong, but not fundamentally like oppressive. So can we have, instead of Muslim culture, can we have Arab culture? Because I think if it's just based on that, there is room for distinctions that keep us out of the realm of zero-sum games. I'm confident 1,300 plus years of Islamic culture has proven is not permitted. And that's the gamble now. That is the gamble here. You mentioned earlier the Iranians. Todd, you brought them up. Their regime, first of all, they're not Arab. Secondly, what I just described in many respects is what Iran was prior to the Ayatollahs. Quasi-corrupt, dictatorial regime. Now, it also, though, women were wearing bikinis and bathing suits in Iran in the 60s, 50s, 60s, and 70s like they were here. Because again, it's not a native Arabic culture. What the Ayatollahs are going to attempt to do, they have two choices here. Trump says they want to make a deal. I bet they do. Or at least buy themselves some time to pretend to negotiate one. Because they're not idiots. They see all the things that we're pointing out. They're way more aware of how the Arab world thinks about them than we're just beginning to become aware of. So this is the choice of Iran, Yemen, and a few other places. Are they willing to abandon Islam as the fundamental factor of their mere existence? Or, which you intimated, this is the degree all-in moment. We've got one last chance to push a button or two. So we're going full Danny DeVito in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and just saying, hit me. And it'll be one of those two. And see if we could just go ahead and destabilize this entire forthcoming accommodation to the point that we plunge the world back into the state that we prefer it to be in.
The decision that the Arab world has, it won't just be ideological, though. A lot of it has to do with the analogy you've been making lately, or the facts of the matter about college football. It's just the rich money men who are calling the shots.
Yes.
Now, That's a terrible, terrible thing for college football, but you're going to have strong Arab strongmen that are just better than the Islamic strongmen.
Correct. Given the limits of the worldviews, we cannot escape our worldview. Worldview is destiny. We cannot look for distinctions within Islam. We cannot offer, I can't make it any more blunt than this. To offer Islam distinctions it doesn't offer itself is essentially volunteering to have Islam cut your head off. And I can't make it any more plain than that. And that's not just true of Islam. That's true of any worldview that would seek to do you harm if you don't adopt it. To offer the home invader To offer the man who invades your home accommodations that he's not offering you is essentially offering yourself up for him to just kill you and your family, maybe in front of you. You just can't do it. You have to see the world for as it is, not as you want it to be. Now, sometimes the Christian response to this, sometimes the Christian response is not actually to fight. Sometimes the Christian response has been Polycarp saying to Rome, I guess I'll take the funeral pyre then. Light the flames. But in all those various cases where these martyrings occurred, you'll notice there was one thing they all had in common. They all occurred within cultures where it was not realistic that you actually had a fundamental ability to practice self-defense. Have you noticed that? It wasn't a realistic thing. It's pretty realistic here. So, the very thing we can't stand that is happening to our Christian society, as you just talked about with college football, we need to be praying that this can happen in the Arab society. It's the old Jeane Kirkpatrick school of foreign policy. You have to acknowledge the worldviews of these cultures, and sometimes the best a culture's worldview can provide is a complete corruptocrat who just so happens to be willing to take our money and be friendly to our interests. We need to be hoping that the Saudi royal family is very well aware of how potentially prosperous the land of Gaza and the West Bank can possibly be, can be developed and what it could become. You need to be hoping that that's the case. Don't be rooting against the fact that they cynically let Israel do this so that they didn't have to. Be hoping they did. Be hoping they did. There is no distinction between Islam and the average Muslim. There's no such thing as the average Muslim. There's just Islam. There's dominion or you don't have Islam. There is no middle ground. So what you have to hope is that these Arab countries, in many respects, are just kind of fake about their religion every bit as much as we are here. Because if they primarily see themselves as Arabs, well, there's lots of deals we could make with Arab traders of legend. We could be groovy with lots of Arabs, right?
There it is.
Not so much people who see themselves, though, as Muslims. All right, back here with Hour 2. Live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. Let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox by emailing us, steve@stevedeace.com. DEACE. Like us on Facebook, me, we, and Gab. You can follow me at Steve Deace Show on X, Instagram, and TikTok. Don't forget to subscribe to our new YouTube channel at Deace Show on YouTube. That's at Deace Show on YouTube. Please also subscribe to the podcast if you listen to that, or you hit follow if you listen via Apple iTunes. They both do the same thing. That makes sure that every time we do a new episode, it's right there in your feed every single time. And then let us know if you're a podcast listener. Let us know that you love us. Let other people know too by leaving us a 5-star review. Tens of thousands of you guys have done that. Thank you guys for each and every single one of those. They're all appreciated, as will be yours if you add yours to the list as well. And we appreciate our friends over at Preborn. The headlines remind us daily that truth is being silenced, and when it's silenced, lives are at risk. Now imagine this, you're a single mom. You've got 2 children, no money, no support. You find out you're pregnant again, this time with triplets. This was Veltasia's reality, alone, overwhelmed, and afraid. Then she walked into a preborn clinic. She was surrounded with love, resources, and the truth that her babies' lives mattered. Today, all 3 of her children are alive because truth triumphed over fear, and someone like you helped her find that truth. For as little as $28, you can fund an ultrasound that doubles a baby's chance at life. And Preborn shines truth into the heart of moms between life and the death of their baby. And this is why truth matters more now than ever before, because when a mother hears it, lives are saved. So if you want to make that tax-deductible donation today, pick up the phone, dial pound 250, say the keyword baby on your mobile phone, or donate securely at preborn.com/Steve. That's preborn.com/Steve. Do it now because life matters at preborn.com/Steve. All right, bottom of the hour, we're going to get into my review of Epic Universe for Pop Culture Tuesday because, wow, this is next level in terms of American amusement parks and maybe where they're headed in the future. But let's begin with some fake news or not. You guys ready to play?
Okay.
You bet.
All right. I have a few things that I want us to discuss here and figure out whether or not they are fake news or not. Let's start with this 60-second ad from Virginia Governor Winsome Sears.
Would it take him pulling the trigger? Is that what would do it? And then you would say he needs to get out of the race? Abigail, you have nothing to say? Abigail, what if he said it about your 3 children? Is that when you would say he should get out of the race, Abigail? You're running to be governor.
Miss Earl Sears.
I mean, we're talking about murder. We're talking about someone's life being taken from them. Have you nothing to say about that? Are you not going to address it? Really, you can't go any further. You're a governor. You're supposed to stand up for all the people. Are you saying political murder is all right? Have some political courage. What you have done is you are taking political calculations about your future as governor. Well, as governor, you have to make hard choices, and that means telling Jay Jones to leave the race.
So I think we all agree this is a pretty devastating ad.
Yes.
This is from last week's, for those of you that don't know. Aaron, you agree? Pretty devastating ad?
Yes.
This is from last week's Virginia governor's debate. Abigail I think it's Spanberger is the Democrat.
Yeah, Spanberger, I think so.
Spanberger, okay, is the Democrat nominee. Jay Jones is the one that was discovered basically is fond of communicating his murder fetishes of his political opponents, including their children. He's the Attorney General nominee. Now, what's happened since these allegations came out, I know if you don't follow Fox or The Blaze, national media is not covering this, but Virginia media has been. Virginia media has been. And the polling in the Virginia AG's race has completely flipped since these text messages with Jay Jones has come out. He was up outside the margin of error before these texts came out. He's been down outside the margin of error ever since. So this Virginia governor's race has been kind of a dead letter all along, not the people. And it's actually people. Here's the thing. It's been a dead letter because everybody does like Winsome Sears. Let me just tell you the dirty little truth. It's not because they don't like her, but because they do. And it didn't look like she had any chance to win until about 3 or 4 days ago. And so it's because everybody does like her, didn't think she had much of a chance to win. It's a little bit like, hey, do you listen to podcasts about your favorite team more after they lose or they win, Todd? What do you think most people do? Like how much Detroit Tigers content you think I've consumed since last Friday, do you think? Very little. Very little. Okay. How much, dude, if the Tigers had won last Friday, I would have come back wearing that really sweet 84 throwback Tiger coat I bought. Like, see what I'm saying? Yeah, that's my point. It's because everybody likes Winsome Sears that they haven't been covering the race on our side. They didn't think she could win, and everybody likes her. And there's, when it's your favorite team and they're going to lose, you just talk about it less. You just kind of, let's just get this over with and I'll just move on, right? Well, now it looks like she might have a chance to win, and it's because of this story. And this clip has gone majorly viral. So my fake news or not question with that as a lead-in. Fake news or not, it would have been better, because we're talking about Democrats, let's just not even assume Abigail Spanberger is capable of saying that that is wrong. Murdering the murder of our political, let's just say she's not even capable of doing that. And let's just keep it real. She would lose about 15-20% of Democratic voters if she said that, because that's at least how many of them are totally fine with murdering their opponents. It's at least that many. Fair?
Yeah.
All right. So then, since we all agree that political option just probably is not on the table, sadly, which tells you where we are. Fake news or not, it would have been better for Abigail Spanberger to defend Jay Jones strongly than to sit there and say nothing for over a minute while Winsome Sears just disemboweled her in her silence.
That is not fake news.
That's not fake news.
Not fake news.
All right, explain why.
Oh,
Each of you.
It's the most cynical possible answer that you already tipped your hand. They're not repentant. They're not capable. They just don't want to be embarrassed. It's all about power for them. Going back interface would be a power move. Now, I do not pull.
Let me give you a version of the defense she could have, or just so I give you our audience an example. If she had said, for example, listen, hey Winsome, are you proud of every single text you've ever sent? Should we go through all your texts?
Oh, something. Yeah.
You've never posted any text you would never dare say in public whatsoever. And hey, maybe Jay went too far, but given how racist, Nazi, Hitler loving fascist all of you are, I think we can all, those of us that understand, tolerance and diversity can understand maybe losing your cool and text you never thought would go public when you're actually living with real Nazis, something like that.
Yes, it's craven. It's terrible. The only caveat I have to what I said, the fact that it is a black woman across from her that she'd be doing it to is not necessarily the same as if it was a white man.
Yep.
And also, even though I think it would have been obviously better from the most cynical point of view of giving advice to people on how to win on points, I still, and this is a devastating ad, I don't think she's like a guaranteed L in any way, shape.
Oh, I don't think she's a guaranteed L either. It's just way more likely of an L than it was 5 days ago.
Yes.
When it was not likely like at all.
Yes.
It was at least 90% she was.
I mean, this woman, to my point, this woman should like never show her face in public again.
Correct.
I mean, scarlet letter.
Yeah.
It's just that disgusting.
Yes. All right, Aaron, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I'm taking a different angle with this. It's slightly different. John Daniel Davidson, I keep bringing this up. People just want the stronger horse when it comes to a post-Christian culture. And so they smell weakness. They smell weakness. If she had equivocated and said, yes, I agree, Jay Jones needs to drop out of the race. I completely condemn killing political opponents. From the left worldview, that's weakness.
Yes.
That's weakness.
Yes.
Even if she would have massaged her language a little bit, like you just suggested there, saying, hey, we're all just equivocating levels of text message depravity. That would have smelled like strength to the left, even if you massaged it. Even if she would have come out and said, this is just Jay Jones. He feels so passionately and so strongly about the future of Virginia and the future of America, so strongly that he expresses himself sometimes in ways that people find distasteful, but that's just an indication of how passionate he really is and how much he'll fight for Virginians and the future of this state as Attorney General.
Yes.
That smells like strength. So yeah, it is, whatever your prompt was, it's not fake news. She would have been better off if she had actually defended him one way or another.
I thought you guys were going to say that. So that brings me to my follow-up question. Who in the world thought that this was the right tactic for Abigail to do? And by the way, there's been other debates, nothing this stark, where, people's murder dreams that you're on a ticket with get exposed. But there have been other debates where I've seen Democrats just go silent and not say anything when caught in the crosshairs, the clear demonic crosshairs of their own worldview. Clearly on their side, this is just the most blatant example. This is some kind of stratagem. Just, no one cares. They can say whatever they want. Don't address it. Blah, 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 blah.
The strategy is, it's not new. Our opponents aren't worthy of debate. They're lesser than us. This started happening in journalism at the end of my tenure at the Register, which is more than a decade now, but where they started saying out loud, journalism isn't. It's not a moral obligation to show both sides of the story. What if one side is Hitler? We're not going to do that. That would be immoral. And that's what they are so consumed with their own sense of self-importance. And they've trained themselves that way that actually this isn't, it's not debate strategy. This is their life. Mm-hmm. That's what you just see. And every once in a while, reality mugs them and they glitch and they have no other resources. I mean, Democrats used to be on all sides of the scale on this kind of thing. Good, bad, fight back, not fight back. But more and more, they're all of the same type. And they're just so filled with contempt. And the other side is so beneath their sense of dignity that they don't want to hear what they ever have to say about anything. They don't want to look them in the eye. Why do I want to look Hitler in the eye? That's what you just saw a version of that there.
Mm. Yeah, I think we need to...
Especially a black woman, I'm sorry. Like, she's just like, what? You're on my side. Why do I have to do this and say this to a black woman? Why are you with Hitler? Sorry, Aaron.
I just think we have to get used to the fact that the modern Democrat Party is post-pragmatism.
Post-pragmatism. So Todd already said they're post-debate, post-truth. You're saying they're post-pragmatism.
They don't even think. I'm not even saying most times.
I think Bill Maher would probably agree with you on this.
I think it's becoming increasingly normal that they don't even think in terms of what lies are best for them to tell in the moment. We're going from the hope and change of Barack Obama. We are going from the sales pitch of what does that even mean? We want to fundamentally transform America to have you come to torture me before the appointed time, son of man? They don't even think in terms of keeping the mask on. So I think this is indicative of that. Her team is not even thinking in terms of lies made to help the spoonful of poison go down with, a little bit of sugar. They're just thinking in terms of, we don't think in these terms. You are, as Todd just said, you are beneath contempt. So why do we even have to game plan for this?
Aaron just described sociopaths. That's what they are. Yeah. Look at her. She doesn't know what to do.
So if they're post-pragmatism, as Aaron just said, pardon me, and Aaron, I think you're correct about that, then we have to adjust our tactics politically dramatically. Let me give you a really bad analogy, though, but it's the best I can come up with to explain the current situation. I mean, I was a pretty good basketball player growing up, played a ton of it. And there were days, me and guys that we played in school together, we'd go out and play against kids who could run faster, jump higher than all of us, but just played street ball. We'd actually play basketball together and just, stay on the playground and own the playground almost, or the YMCA court most of the day doing that. The ones I hated to play against the most were the kids who actually did know how to play basketball. Because there's a certain amount of ingrained rules. Like you play, for example, ball, you man defense. You're taught that from the very beginning. All right. You are between ball, you man. That's how you play defense. But then there's the kids that didn't get taught how to play. And then when it was their turn, they'd come out and they would play man, you ball. And they would just front you. Just run around and be in front of you and just face guard and shield you no matter where you went. And it would just throw you off because this is just not how this is played. These are not the rules of the game. And since everyone is taught the same fundamentals of ball, you man defense from the very beginning playing basketball in youth league, you figure out how to beat ball, you man defense because we're all playing ball, you man defense, right? But now you have people who don't know how to play the sport at all, aren't a part of the sport, don't care, never played it organized in their lives. And they're just out here just limbs a flailing, running around. You're like, what do I do with this? And you realized I have to play a completely different game of basketball than I played this entire time before, these people came on the court. That's what it means now. There was a certain rules. But if they're post-pragmatism, then there really aren't any rules. They're just constantly in missiology mode without any consideration for political calculations whatsoever. In other words, they're basically operating like a religion should, which means we're going to have to change our tactics accordingly. So in the last hour on our show, I gave you hope that there might be enough craven, cynical pragmatism in the Arab world for them to be more Arab cultures than Islamic. And Aaron just told you, here in our country, however,
yes. Yes, he did.
There is no such pragmatism we can count on to negotiate with our opponents over here. That we're better off negotiating with Arabs.
We are.
Yes.
Than we are Democrats in America.
For sure.
That's essentially what we just taught you today. That's the big lesson of today's show, basically. All right. Let's get to this from Jack Posobiec. He posted this on Columbus Day. This meme. Oh, look, here comes the far right. It's basically an illustration of Mel Gibson's entire premise of the movie Apocalypto, which is a great movie, by the way. Right? So here come, these are the pagan indigenous savages practicing yet another round of human sacrifice. And the far right, represented by Christendom, comes in to say, yeah, we're the superior culture and we're not doing things like that anymore. So your tolerance and diversity is out. Truth and grace is in. Fake news or not. This meme.
That is
not fake news.
That is not fake news. And it's Jack's point about posting it is highlighted just as much as those I've seen multiple Des Moines area. Again, red state Iowa. Not only do we have illegal immigrants with a vast criminal record running our school systems, but learning nothing. Several school systems yesterday had Happy Indigenous Peoples Day. So yeah, it's ultimately, like Steve says, it's a battle of worldviews.
Just substitute Planned Parenthood sign with an abortionist there instead of the natives.
Right on.
And it's the same thing.
Right on.
It's the same thing. So, yeah, this is not fake news at all.
All right. Let's get to number 3. This is a summary of Kevin Stitt's article in the New York Times, the outgoing governor of Oklahoma. Chairman of the National Governors Association on Thursday, he criticized the deployment of Texas National Guard troops to Illinois as a violation of his beliefs in federalism and states' rights. His comments in an interview with the New York Times marked the first time a Republican governor had questioned the interstate deployment of National Guard troops over a governor's objections. Governor J.B. Pritzker of Illinois and other Democratic elected officials have been strongly critical of the move and have implored Republican governors to join the opposition. You guys know what his explanation for why he's against this, right? You know what's coming, don't you? Stitt said, quote, "We believe in the federalist system. That's states' rights. Oklahomans would lose their mind if Pritzker in Illinois sent troops down to Oklahoma during the Biden administration." In other words, they're going to do this to us, guys. What happens if they get power and they do this? They do this to us, guys. Fake news or not?
Yeah.
Fake.
It's fake news. They've already done it. We've been down this road. Kevin Stitt is obviously a man who just has no understanding of what time it is. And it sounds like that's like a lot of Republicans down in a place like Oklahoma.
It is. It is.
I mean, all that good old boy nonsense. This is where actually I'm trying to be polite. I'm actually kind of rooting that Pritzker, because I'd like you guys to remember that you're actually like men of the West. Again, like it's so soft. At the end of the day, you'll tell me all this.
Getting cucked, meaning letting somebody else come in and do his job. Yeah.
Pride. We're Oklahoma proud. Really? Because your pride is about things, actual things. I hope more than Boomer Sooner and all that. What do you stand for? And at the end of the day, if the gap between good and evil is this big, it's not about they're going to do that. It's about our side has to win. Not because it's shirts and skins, because it's good versus evil.
Not according to Kevin Stitt. There's equivocation here, and these are morally equivalent situations.
I just don't.
There's two reasons why the Biden administration did not have the Illinois National Guard go to Oklahoma. One, because you all wouldn't let your own cities become what Illinois has. And then two, you all own a lot of guns and your people wouldn't tolerate that. But in other words, your worldviews and situations aren't morally equivalent. So therefore, since the situations are not morally equivalent, there isn't a moral equivalency. They're not the same thing. They're not.
But sooner or later, maybe not right now, but if this can happen to a place like Oklahoma, you're going, and this is biblical, you will deserve to be taken over by the likes of Pritzker and everything he stands for. I mean, the lamentations about why Babylon, why, yes, we have not been good, but why would you let them win? Because you deserve it.
That's Catholic totters and channeling some old John Calvin there. Wicked rulers are how God punishes people.
I didn't go deep on that one. This is my point. That's so damn obvious.
Yes.
Guys, they just showed us everything they plan on doing. They show it every day. They're holding American cities hostage across the land. They're going to do it to you as soon as they get a chance. And this is what
they did it to you, by the way, by voting for the people that helped 21 million illegal aliens invade the country. Okay.
Yeah. I'm trying to find a way to say, Kevin, I hold you in as much contempt as the blinking blonde woman in Virginia. You're both utterly feckless.
That'll leave a mark. Aaron.
So it's fake news. I just don't know how many times we have to say this. The Constitution, and you've said this before, the Constitution as written, closest thing that feeble mankind maybe has gotten to inspired literature since the Word of God. If you substitute that, though, for the Word of God and the worldview that entails,
you turn into a suicide.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what too many people have done. I'm not going to judge that. I'm sure motivations pure as the driven snow. But you have to see the world as it is, not as the Constitution would like it to be. And the world as it is that any given day, J.B. Pritzker, Augustus Gloop, wipes his increasingly voluminous bottom with that Constitution.
Yes.
And so you're making this case that in the process of upholding our Constitution, upholding our national laws, in this case, immigration, protecting those forces, upholding the laws of our land, that's what President Trump is doing, which is lawful already. That's what's going on. We're upholding the law. We're defending those who are upholding the law lawfully. Any disagreements with that? I'm sure the left would disagree with that. They don't have a leg to stand on, according to our own Constitution. You're saying that that is anti-constitutional because the left might do what? What? If you're saying they're going to do something anti-constitutional, then you have the moral authority at that time to stop them. Making this an equivocation is suicide. Not only do you not know what time it is, you are living in a completely different universe. It's just...
Listen, if I go across the street to my neighbor's house and shoot them, did I violate their constitutional rights?
Yes.
Yeah. If my neighbor comes into my house and attempts to shoot me, and then I shoot them, did I violate their constitutional rights?
No.
No! Now, in each case, I shot my neighbor, correct? Now, why is one not a violation of their constitutional rights and the other is? Because in one case, I'm the one committing the immoral act, and in the other case, they are. And the morality is what would indicate whether the situations are morally equivalent. Kevin Stitt's either a moron, has ulterior motives, Or seriously, the governor of Oklahoma has not factored in morality into any of his political positions on a deep, fundamental, philosophical level. It's not the same thing.
Well,
if the state of Oklahoma shoots Todd Erzin at a gas station while he's pumping gas, is it immoral?
Yeah.
If the state of Oklahoma fries a serial killer, is that immoral?
No.
What's the difference?
I have yet to become a serial killer.
Yes. It's that simple. It's that simple. If the state of Illinois decides we're going to just completely let illegal aliens and criminals overrun one of America's great cities, the answer is that we maintain a one-way constitutional relationship with them. The Constitution already allows for when people decide they're not going to abide by it, they no longer are given the benefits of it.
You think you can make a deal with the left?
Goodness.
They made up their minds what they were going to do to you 15 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And they illustrated it about a month ago.
You think this is a trial? This is a mere sentencing hearing.
Correct.
Yes.
Also implied.
Yes.
Implied in all this is Kevin Stitt is just flat out telling you, oh, by the way, if the rabbit's got the gun, I don't plan on defending you.
All Kevin Stitt told you is I'm just no good in a fight whatsoever. That's all I told you. Yeah. I'm here just to manage the Oklahoma Chamber of Commerce's wishes for you. That's what I'm here to do. I'm no good to you. It gets down to brass tacks. It's us versus them. Don't call on me. That's all I told you. But here's the thing. He ain't alone. And especially in our red states. He's a legion in our red states.
Big tent. Big tent.
So big that it deflates and falls apart and souffles itself. That's how big the tent is. Yeah. Meanwhile, we began this segment with their post-pragmatism over there on things like the literal manifestation of the murder of my opponents and their children. We're post-pragmatism. We can't be bothered. Over here, we're like, actually retarded. We're actually retarded. That's what we are. Actually retarded. Actually, you're retarded. That's what you are. Retarded. All right. We are out of time, but I have got to get to this Christmas thing. So we're going to do, because this ties into Pop Culture Tuesday too. So we're going to do double-fisted Pop Culture Tuesday when we come back. I'm going to do a quick little review of Epic Universe, as promised, okay? But then I want to make the case, we'll come back around to this last thing on fake news or not, that maybe on second thought, these earlier than ever Christmas recognitions may not be terrible, all right? Okay. We'll have that conversation next. Back here on the Steve Deace Show, in these unprecedented times, it is way more important than ever before to make sure you've got a real estate agent you can trust. Where would you find one? Well, the name says it all. Head over to realestateagentsitrust.com, and there we hook you up with an agent whose track record of success has been verified before he or she is recommended to you. A lot of times they'll come from right here in this audience too. In fact, a lot has changed since we last had a robust real estate market. It was like almost 6 years ago now. So make sure you end up finding the kind of agent that you're going to be recommending to the people you care about for years to come. Where would you find them? Head over to the website, realestateagentsitrust.com. Again, agents that you would recommend to others. You want to first hire yourself. realestateagentsitrust.com. All right, Pop Culture Tuesday. Let's go ahead and address Epic Universe before we get to the larger Christmas cultural question. Epic Universe is appropriately named. It is epic. It is
price tag epic?
I don't know. That's relative to somebody's financial circumstances. It's kind of weird for Amy and I in that now that we can afford more things, the show is more successful than it was when the kids were little. The thing is, though, things are just way cheaper for us at the same time because we don't have 3 kids to pay for all the time. So it's kind of relative, But Epic Universe, first of all, if you're going to do Universal Studios, make sure you do the other 2 parks, which still have, the Spider-Man ride at Universal Orlando is still among the greatest rides I've ever been on. The Forbidden Journey Hogwarts Castle ride there at Islands of Adventure, one of the best rides I've ever been on. But make sure you do the pre-existing Universal Studios first and Epic Universe last, because if you do Epic Universe first, our very own Sarah Gonzalez texted this to me last week because that's what her family did when they went earlier this year. They did Epic first, and then everything was kind of a letdown after that. If you do it in reverse, Epic last, you kind of build up to Epic. Epic is incredible. I've never seen anything like it in this country. Epic Universe there's 4 different realms. There's Berk from How to Train Your Dragon, the island of Berk, and literally when you walk in, it is the island of Berk. The attention to detail is insane. There's a Super Mario world. When you walk in, you feel like you are in the middle of the Super Mario video game. The rides there, you almost don't even mind the wait. You want to wait, and you've never wanted to wait in line for a ride more in your life. Like waiting in line to do the Bowser's Castle ride, you are literally in the middle of Bowser's Castle. It's crazy. The attention to detail is crazy. There's a dark universe of the old Universal monsters, and it's way more gothic and dark in its motif than all the others. So they all have their own individual unique flavors at the same time. Dark Universe, you really felt like you were walking through the set of an old Boris Karloff, Bela Lugosi, Lon Chaney Jr. Universal horror movie from, way back in the day. The Monsters Unleashed ride at Frankenstein's Castle. First of all, they literally built Frankenstein's Castle, number 1. They literally built that. And what if I were to tell you that's not even the most impressive thing that they built? But the Monsters Unleashed ride is insane. The quality of the graphics, the quality of the VR, it's insane. But the most impressive thing I have ever seen is the Ministry of Magic. Holy cow. They literally built the Ministry of Magic. You walk through it, including the Floo entrance, if you know your Harry Potter, when you walk in. You watch Dolores Umbridge on trial. You go through the various departments of the Ministry of Magic as you're waiting in line, up the stairs, down the stairs, around the corner. You see everybody's offices. And then the ride itself will blow your mind. I mean, Epic Universe raises the bar. The bar has been raised for every single American amusement park experience in America because of Epic. So, highly recommend if you can do it, for sure. It's incredible. But either do that by itself and only that, or if you're going to do all of Universal, do the other 2 parks first, which you'll still have a lot of fun in, but if you wait and do them last after you do Epic, you're going to be like, I'm doing the JV team, and you are. Any quick thoughts on that before I move on to the Christmas thing?
And there's no way from getting from the 2 parks to the other, because the last one, Epic Universe, is more downtown Orlando, and the other ones are a little bit further away.
And there's a whole backstory into how this got built. Governor DeSantis kind of, let's just say it's not a coincidental timing. I'll leave it at this. It's not a coincidence, the timing that Universal went state of the art with the largest amusement park expansion in the state of Florida since Disney World itself was built, right at the time that Disney decided to go to war with the governor of Florida. Let's just say the timing of these events, not all that coincidental. And Universal holds up their end of the bargain. Oh, I didn't mention the food. Very high quality food. I was very worried about that, okay? We're going to eat a bunch of fried junk and crap. The quality of food was very high. I mean, I had restaurant grade brisket one night there at Epic Universe. Like an excellent chicken sandwich for lunch, grilled chicken. Because, it's hot. You're walking outside, I don't want to be putting a bunch of, fatty foods on my system. I want, I want as good lean protein as I could possibly get, keep the energy level high in my 50s. I was stunned at how good the food was too. It did not feel like cheap, amusement park fare at all. I mean, it's pretty epic all the way through. Highly recommend if you can do it. All right, back to fake news or not, because it ties into Pop Culture Tuesday as well. All right, so I do these every year when we go to Costco and stuff and Walmart, and they put the Christmas up too early, And I kind of post these just to troll you, frankly, Todd. All right.
I'm untrollable. I'm just right on this.
I'm untrollable.
I'm just correct.
Just correct. All right, so I always take pictures of the early Christmas gifts, early Christmas decorations at Costco and Walmart, right? So this was just one of the aisles there at Costco on the 75 days until Christmas. They were starting to put the Christmas stuff out. Walmart was, full-fledged. There were aisles of Christmas stuff already ready to go at Walmart. So then we went out and did some stuff as a family Sunday, went over to Lowe's, and was one of the stops we made. And we saw they had both Halloween decorations and Christmas decorations out. And they were already beginning to put the Halloween stuff away. It's October 12th. Halloween's 3 weeks away. And Lowe's has some really cool Christmas stuff. The giant snowman, all the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer animatronics, Yukon Cornelius, all of it's very cool. But even Anna and I were like, and Anna's a chip off the old block with this stuff. Even we were like, it just feels like it's too early to be looking at. It was 80 degrees outside Sunday. We're all in t-shirts and shorts. There's still Halloween stuff up. We just felt it was too early, right? Even I said it was too early. But as we were getting back in the car and leaving, a thought occurred to me, and I want to share it with you. Okay. The Halloween stuff in the last few years has gone over the top. And I say this as I am probably as friendly to the spooky aspects of Halloween as almost any spirit-filled believer with a microphone you will find. There's others, they just don't want to say it out loud because they don't want to put up with your emails, but I don't care. And some of it, admittedly, I grew up around this with my grandmother and stuff, but it also means I'm very aware of it. I can tell you when it's just spooky and when it's just overtly occult, for example. But I do tend to be friendlier to this stuff than the average, stereotypical evangelical. Fair? I think that's fair.
Yeah, see, last week's show, I believe, where you reminded Anna of how you used to torment her and her children in the dark. Yes, we recall that. Yes. You said it live.
Yes. All right, but even I have noticed the last few years, this has kind of gone over the top, where it's just become like a subculture now. How extreme can we get? How overt can we get? It used to be Halloween was a cool season to dress up in costumes, get spooky, and as you became teenagers, frankly, you went to a haunted house as a relatively cheap excuse to scare your girlfriend into getting too close to you. If we're just being honest, that's why we did stuff like that. Now it feels like it's kind of a subculture, and it's gotten kind of creepy. It's gone over the top. And so I'm kind of thinking, because of that trend, maybe I have a different view that it's too early for the Christmas stuff. In that it seems to be coming at the expense of the Halloween stuff. Like Walmart was putting a bunch of Halloween stuff away. Again, October 12th, they're putting it away. That's normally, as we were growing up, we were just now getting around to thinking when we were kids what costumes we were going to wear, right? If it's at the expense of the over-the-top obsession where Halloween has become in the last decade the second most consumer-spent holiday in America behind Christmas. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. No reason for that. The candy's not that expensive, neither are the costumes. That means you're just going way overboard in expressions in this stuff. You're not just dabbling. It's not just spooky season fun. It's ritual now, if you're spending that kind of money. So if we're putting the Halloween stuff away earlier than ever before, at the expense of bringing the Christmas stuff out, even though I am a Christmas slap and I can tell you how many days it is until Christmas, but I'm still not like feeling it yet, to like do the thing. I'm kind of thinking maybe I'm okay with it. If it's at the expense of how over the top recognition of Halloween has become as almost like a yin and yang religious holiday. You see what I'm trying to say? Okay. Like the darkness gets to go first and then we go last. If we're saying to them, you don't get as many outs anymore. You don't get a full inning of outs. You don't get 3 outs. You get 1 out. and we're going to actually take a couple of your outs away and claim them for ourselves, maybe it's okay. What are your thoughts? Did it make a good enough case to at least consider?
No. They're just moving merch. They are.
Well, that could be for all time and all things, and on everything. It's America.
You're making a spiritual case where it doesn't apply. They're just moving merch. They know it's going to sell more and sell quicker, and Halloween.
All right, but that also may make my case. Why would it sell more and more quicker right when we're still, and really for most people are just beginning to think about Halloween, then why would Christmas still sell more merch? That kind of makes my point, right?
No.
Market research. People have already bought their Halloween stuff by thus and such a date. It's time to put the Christmas stuff out. That's the simplest explanation in my mind.
It's a spreadsheet, man. It's not spirit-based.
So you really don't think there's anything positive here at all?
No, I think the more, if you make Christmas every day of the year.
I agree with that.
Then it's still the thing.
But I think it's way worse to make Halloween almost every day of the year. Way worse.
Well, yeah,
it's way worse to, to extend Halloween beyond just, hey, let's, it's spooky, October winds and the leaves off the trees.
I got two crazy.
So now it's a religious subculture?
Two crazy lesbians right down the street from me. Their front yard is a baby cemetery. I get it.
So you know what I'm talking about then? Yeah.
Yeah, I get it, but I don't think this is not going to. This is not ultimately going to solve what you're claiming needs to be solved, and you're right about that. But the November jingoism of Christmas, which doesn't really love Jesus, it loves shopping. I mean, no.
What about your neighborhoods? Right now, I would say there's the fewest Halloween decorations collectively in our neighborhood that I can ever remember.
My neighborhood, it's not as bad as years past, but there are some lawns that it's just like, how do you have enough I don't mean to typecast, but you go a couple of blocks west of us, 2-3 blocks west of us, and it's just like, how can you afford to fill your lawn with all of these those animatronics are not cheap. How can you afford to do this? I don't understand it. Like I said, it's not as bad as it has been. People have kind of gone maybe on the cheap a little bit. A new thing this year are the garage door covers. Seen those for the first time. Those are, whatever. Ben notices them if we're out on walks, but it's just odd. And I don't recall this growing up. And again, I grew up in a rural area, so we weren't driving around town all that much. But I don't remember Halloween being nearly as big of a deal as it is now in terms of the darkness and spooky stuff. There were fun kind of spooky movies on Disney and things like that.
Yeah.
But not the all-out celebration that it is now.
It's charming when adults, in rare circumstances, become more childlike. But when your default is constantly to being the childlike, and that's why they that's why they buy this stuff. This is what they do. And they play their video game. This is an extension of toy lightsabers, video games, and fantasy football. They hate being an adult.
So at our house, we have a jack-o'-lantern on the front porch. I've got a scarecrow dangling from my basketball hoop. So it acts like a windsock. Okay. And then I think I have because my all-time favorite ride as a kid was riding Haunted Mansion with my grandmother. So I have a Disney Haunted Mansion doormat on the front door. Over the top, appropriate. Shouldn't do it. What do you think? That's the extent of our Halloween display at our house.
Because you don't have kids there anymore, and until you do have aware grandkid, it can't grow from that point. I think that's the thing. I mean, we don't have any. My wife hates Halloween. We have pumpkin.
Even as Catholics, I'm surprised. Okay.
Well, no, she doesn't. She doesn't. There's nothing about that ring.
I didn't mean that to be derogatory, but you guys just tend to be more favorable to it than Protestants. That's all.
That could have been construed.
I know. For people who don't understand why I said that, but there's more ceremony around this time of year for you guys and your calendar than there typically is for us. That's
the
why
calendar is designed for a reason.
I didn't mean that. The pagan Romanists. I didn't mean it that way. Sorry. That's why you didn't take offense. You understood what I meant.
I understood exactly what you meant. And there is supposed to be a continuity, dark, light, all that. Yeah, it's supposed to work together. Yeah. But this is all just a shopping spreadsheet and man-children who just don't ever want to grow up. I mean, it's like everything else. It's not serious. That's on a good day. Most of it is just decadent and blasphemous, and so no, we're not. You just tried to go October after a month ago. You said no, I'll see you in November 15th. Now you're October. No.
I'm not trying to, for the record, I'm not trying to extend Christmas. I'm trying to shorten Halloween. I tried. I thought it was a compelling case, but I've been rejected. Go hard, Romans 8:28.